Welcome to Aquarium Dilemmas. I'm your host, Science Gal Aquatics. I'm Carrie, and this is my co-host,
Jesse.
Welcome to the show.
Yes.
And I think this episode is going to be an interesting topic. I've been thinking all week on what to do, and we haven't talked about it too much, so Jesse, we'll see how you do with my crazy thoughts.
I don't know if you, I think you said it earlier. I think phases is probably better than stages.
Yeah, I was thinking, I was like, I don't know if everybody's been through this, but I bet a good chunk of fish keepers that's been doing this for a while has gone through these phases of fish keeping.
Well, stages implies that you're progressively doing one thing, then another thing, then another thing. Well, whereas this, you can jump back and forth.
Yeah, and you could tie it together. These phases that you go through can advance your stages of fish keeping.
Exactly. That's what I mean. So
there you go. That was a good thought, wasn't it?
What do they call them? Epiphanies?
Yeah.
I think it's epiphanies is what they call those.
And I think some people might go through different phases, longer, shorter. I think I went through this first phase the longest for sure. But the first phase for me, I just got into the fish keeping hobby and I just really didn't know what I was doing and the reasons behind why I was doing it. But I was kind of born into it. So I kept a tank because my dad kept a tank, and I did water changes because my dad did water changes. And I went to the fish store and I picked out anything I thought was cute. And I put it in my tank and I kept it all together. And sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. I didn't even know why it didn't work when it didn't work.
Well, I think the first phase being however you get into it, because I never got in. I didn't get into it until I got with you.
Yeah, that first phase where you just go to the fish store, you set it up. There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, you can keep fish however you want to keep fish, but that first entry phase where you just go to the store, you pick out what you want. You want to keep fish, but you're not doing like research yet, maybe that beginner phase where you just keep fish, but you don't really know why you do the things you do.
Well, you just, however you got into it, that first phase where it's like you drew me into it because of school, because you already had kept a fish tank before. Mm-hmm. I had never kept a fish tank, so I got drawn into it that way. And then for me, it was, hey, oh look, that's really cool. And I thought it was really cool, but I didn't know nothing about it. I just wanted it.
Yeah,
I didn't know nothing about it.
You don't know anything about fish compatibility, the water parameters. You don't know.
Yeah, if they're supposed to be kept hot or cold or tank size or anything.
Anything about the nitrogen cycle. And it's nothing bad. You just don't know yet. You haven't been introduced to it yet.
I guess it's the start of the learning curve. Mm-hmm. And then it's whether you get frustrated, whether you've bought fish and they pass away because of something you did, or not even something you did. You just inherited something from the store or wherever you didn't know anything about, and it could frustrate you.
Yeah. But I still think this is the most important phase out of all of them, because if you don't get curious about keeping fish and you don't bite the bullet and go buy your first tank and your first group of fish, regardless if you know what you're doing, I think it does last the longest, but it's really the most important because it's what sparks the interest of things to come.
Yes, and I think it's the most rewarding, and I think it's also, as we go through the more of the phases of it, you always somehow a little bit come back to this stage later on
whatever topic. Because, like, I might know, I'm not going to say everything by any means, but I might know a little bit about fish compatibility. But when I went into aquascaping, I was definitely back at I didn't know this plant from this plant. And I didn't know if I kept it with CO2 or no CO2 or high light or low light, but I definitely bought everything.
And we won't even get into the other parts of it, but like, should this plant be in the foreground, the background, the midground?
I didn't know. I had fun floating, not floating. I had fun literally buying everything I possibly could, and a lot of it didn't take, but I had it. It was fun to try. So I don't want to sit here and be like, it's an entry phase where you don't know anything. I don't want to beat up that
I think it's a
phase.
curiosity phase, really, because however you got pulled into, okay, I'm going to keep a fish or I'm going to keep a fish tank, whether it be the aquascaping side of it, I want to keep some plants, grow some aquatic plants or fish or whatever the case may be. I think it's the most curiosity driven and a lot of learning in this particular phase because of how crazy do you want to go with it? How wild are you? How committed, and do the little setbacks inspire you, or like they've inspired us, obviously, or do they drive you away?
Yeah. Because we definitely came into it in two different ways. I came into it by birthright, and you came into it because I took over your dining room.
Yeah. I was inherited into it.
I never thought about keeping fish tanks to now I keep
a fish room.
It was at least like 9 for when I was in college in my
for your project in
research.
college. I had my dining room ended up getting converted into a small
And
fish room.
You didn't understand what I was doing, but I
had
did.
not a clue. I mean, not a clue.
And that's kind of a good segue into the next phases when I had this huge epiphany when I was in my ecology class. So that gives you how long I was in that first phase. I was born into this hobby, and I was in ecology class in college. And I was sitting there in ecology class, and all of a sudden the professor started talking about the nitrogen cycle. And I was like, wait a second. I don't know which part of that triggered the epiphany, but I was like, I was like the beginning part of my research. So it was, I don't know, year 3 into college. It was a good part. And I had this epiphany where I tied it into everything. And I was like, that's why we do water changes. So yeah, I feel like that second phase, this phase probably doesn't last very long. I went from the second to what I call the third phase really quickly. But that second phase is when something triggers something and you start looking into it a little bit more carefully, a little bit more deeply on a topic, whatever topic. Mine was the nitrogen cycle, but it could be anything.
Well, and it could be anything as far as it could go from, and it really this ties in very well with this. It could be from whether you're super interested, because this is where on my phase, once we got past that, I got into the plants.
Yeah, he got into the plant.
I got into the plants. You got into more in depth on the fish and the parameters and that stuff. Whereas I just wanted to grow plants in water because I thought it was cool.
Yeah, I still thought it was, I think I still thought it was equally as cool because I nerded out on it quite hard too. But you come into even the plant world because you're a tree guy. You know plants. To this day, I still struggle with some. I know what it is, but I don't know how to pronounce it. And you just be like, oh, that's blah, blah, blah. I was like, how did you know that? But yeah, it's just, I feel like that second phase is when something triggers something and you just start looking a little deeper into the hobby. And granted, this will age us, and I feel like it's kind of obvious, but when I was younger, it was a little harder to research things because we had to actually go to a library or something. We didn't have the internet in our house. So there you go.
Well,
and
when
now
we did have it'll age us.
Yeah.
When we did have the internet in our house.
When I was younger, you are grandpa soon. So when we were younger.
We lived in the era of dial-up, that wonderful.
Yeah, you could tell you were getting a phone call and stuff because it would be, but now you can sit on the couch and Netflix and chill and Google fish topics quite easily, and the information is far easier. So this stage doesn't last very long, because the third phase for me is when you find like a partner in crime, or someone where the hobby no longer becomes, it's still a solo hobby, but your hobby gets a little bigger outside yourself. You find a little community. You stumble into YouTube videos. You find a forum or a discussion or a fish club in person. It's no longer just me in my apartment or me just following my dad's lead. I have something to look at to know that the hobby is far more reaching than just me in my fish room or me in my one aquarium, whatever age I was.
Well, and then you're starting to question and wonder the dilemmas and the decisions and the things you've done, and you're starting to talk to other people and see how they've done it, whether it be through videos or a club or whatever the case may be. And then you're going, oh, I did it like that too.
Yeah.
Or I didn't do that, but I did do that.
Yeah. And it's one thing it's nice to be able to watch videos and be able to make videos and have a pod and listen to all this stuff and have all this information. But nothing beats learning from someone a few decades older than you in the fish club hallway.
Oh, yeah.
Or you're eavesdropping and you're like, oh, I never thought of that. You're like, wow. Or I never heard of that fish. Like, I always kept whatever was at the fish store. Did I know it? I barely knew what fish it was. And then I learned that there is live bears and like proper cichlids, and they each that fish shouldn't go with that. Oh, that's why I made that mistake. Oh, that's why that fish got eaten, or that's why that fish probably seemed a little stressed out and hiding all the time. Like, you learn. It's like I said, I'm grateful for all the stuff on the internet, and some things aren't good and some things are really good, but there's nothing like having a friend or a buddy or a mentor that you can actually call, text, however that you can get that information just right there on hand. There's just nothing that beats that for me personally.
Well, because that goes back to that first phase of if you get out of that first phase, you don't stop. You're not get frustrated and relinquish the idea. And you stay after it, then it comes into that second phase of, then you're like, okay, well, why am I doing this like this? Am I even doing it right? And as we've found out, I'm the king of mistakes.
Oh, me too.
I'm the king of mistakes, but really, ultimately, there's not a real right or perfect wrong. There's not in this, in aquarium life. There's not. There's certain things work and certain things don't.
Yeah.
And that's pretty obvious. But there is a big gray area that you can get away with a lot of things. Whereas if you tell somebody that, they're like, you mean that worked? And they
worked for me.
And they look at you with, this face of awe and like, what?
Yeah.
Why would you even? Well, I didn't know any better.
Yeah. And just because it worked for me, it might not work for you, but sometimes what worked for you might work for me too.
Yeah. Well, and that's where that middle ground of either videos or your club or however the case may be, even, you find a coworker at work that accidentally keeps fish you didn't know about or whatever.
Oh my gosh. I will tell you some of the best stories. Conversation stories. I've worked in hair for a long time. I've worked at the same salon for a long time, and I've had the same clients for a really long time. And off and on through the years, they've gotten older, so some of them can't do it anymore, period. But off and on through the years, they've gotten tanks. And we've talked about tanks the entire time. They've gotten a highlight or a haircut, or they saw something cool and they shared a video. Some of them have reptiles now and things like that. And I'm like, this is just so awesome.
Well, that's what I mean. It's however you find your community or your niche or whatever works for you. I'm just an outgoing person. So and you drag me to everything. So it doesn't, I mean, that's kind of is what it is.
Yeah.
But
I think this phase kind of ends and you start merging into this next one when you start getting multi-tank syndrome. And when you find a community or you find the hobby becomes bigger than yourself in just your room, it quickly evolves to 1 tank, 3 tanks.
MTS is real.
It's real.
I wouldn't have believed it if you told me
real.
10 years ago that MTS was a thing. I'd be like, what are you even talking about? Multi-tank syndrome? There's no way.
Yes. And you do have to be careful with that because my type of personality, I will find a new hobby and I will go all in. And this hobby has been a part of my life for a long time. But once I found that community and I started sharing on social media and stuff, it took on a whole new level and I get super addicted and I go from 90 to nothing. I do it pretty much on everything. Everything I want to do, I was like, this will be a great business or this is a good idea. I do it on everything. And once I hit this stage of it, I got excited. It's excitement that stirs it. I have this deep excitement for it, but that can quickly escalate the burnout faster. So I guess the point of talking about this phase is it is exciting. I recommend getting a couple more tanks at a time, but don't go from 1 to like 12 overnight. Like one may have done to one significant other. Because for me, with my type of personality, I go up and down. So the excitement disappears just as quickly as it comes sometimes. And so, yes, do I recommend going and getting a couple more? Obviously, it's fun. But just know in the back of your head, if you go in too much, too quick, too fast, it can escalate the burnout.
I will put the caveat on it if you're doing it yourself, whereas we do it as a couple, which is awesome. Yeah. Awesome. She tells me what I should do, what I shouldn't do. Come help her with this or stay out of her way. Leave her alone. Don't even come in here right now.
I need my time this is my hobby right now and you need to butt out. Sometimes we do everything together, which is great, but sometimes I'm the type that I need my space and I need you to just come downstairs when I need my buckets carried. And then you can come down.
No.
It helps me calm down sometimes, put my music on or my audiobook and do my maintenance.
And that's fine. I think you're right. I would encourage everyone to have more than 1 tank. And possibly just have 2 or 3 tanks. We've had the most fun when we were dealing with probably a half a dozen tanks. Bigger tanks.
I like to have the amount of tanks that I can maintenance. If I have to do it all in one day, I can get it done in one day and not feel rushed and comfortable. And that's kind of what I always go back to. I might have a few more at one time or a little less and I will add, but I seem to always come back to the amount that I like to do the maintenance in one day. Most of the time I spread it out. I'll do a few a day, but if we have to get something done or leave or do something and I have to get it done in one day, I don't feel like it's a chore. Because when the maintenance turns into a chore, that's when...
But your number of tanks that you can handle
is not what
a normal person would say. I'm saying a half dozen. For me, it would be like 6 tanks. 20-gallon tanks would be fine. You prefer I can kick out 20, 30 in a day. Yeah,
my mom has a 55-gallon, and I think my dad has a 40-gallon breeder. My sister, I talked her into, I think it was a 10-gallon tank for a while. It seems like most of my clients and people I know that are just now getting into it, I steer them to a 20 long. I like a 20 long. But I will always recommend getting more. but know that once you get introduced to the hobby or the community and you start getting a little deeper, your friend groups gets a little larger that are just fish friends. Just know that you're going to get more tanks. You are. It's guaranteed. Just make sure that if you have, I don't know what I have, but I get addicted to things, quite a highly addictive personality, I guess. Just keep it in check. Instead of going and wanting to buy 15, just try 3 for a while. It's really fun too to have 3.
Yes, you right now you have 28.
Yes, but this phase, I think, or you go into the next phase, whatever phase we're on, I don't even know at this point, but this one ends and the next one begins when you start learning how to garage sale tanks, reseal tanks, fix tanks, or people call you because you know you like fish tanks and they just drop them off at your house. You start meeting people in the parking lots alone for tanks. You start doing things a little extra. You have like a storage area for your fish stuff that you don't want anybody to touch. You start to get to that, extreme
borderline
level.
Hoarder.
And I don't have a problem throwing away. I don't get attached to things. I really don't. But my fish room stuff and pictures, I am attached to pictures. But my fish room stuff, anything that I can possibly tie to my fish room, I will keep and hold on to a new level that I didn't know I had fight for an inanimate object that is like an old shot glass that is perfect for diluting salt when I need salt. It's like nothing fancy. It's just it doesn't even have a cute little logo on it. But I will fight for these objects to be held on to. Like, to an unhealthy level, let's be honest. A set of measuring spoons that I really just stole from the upstairs kitchen. But those are my favorite fish room measuring spoons.
Yeah, let's not even go into that. Let's not even go to that. I was cooking something and I hardly ever measure.
Yeah, that can be tight. When you start resealing tanks, garage sailing, or stealing stuff from your own self from the kitchen. You've entered this phase. Yes. This phase will last a long time. It's pretty equivalent to the first phase in length, I think, because...
Well, it's because then I've been looking for this fish. I found this fish. Hey, guess what? I already have a tank.
When you start... I don't know if this is going to make sense because it just popped in my head, so... Let me think. When you start going into stores, areas, anything to deal with your life, and you have aquarium fish goggles on, where everything you look at has to be filtered, like, could I use this in my tanks? That's the first question you ask yourself. You're in this stage. When you go to a store and you're like, could I use that spaghetti strainer for water changes so I don't mess up my aquascape? Could I use saran wrap to do this? Yes, you can. Can you, like you said, steal your measuring spoons from the kitchen? Yes, you can. When you go to the hardware store and you start reading ingredients for things, can I use this? Is this safe for my tank? Yeah, I think it is safe for my tank. Let's try that. When you go to the hardware store and you start looking at rocks, not for your landscaping, but for your tanks, things like that.
Oh, yeah.
You are nose deep in this long-lasting phase of fish keeping. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, it does to that. Like, you come at it from there, whereas I come at it from more of the hardware side of it where you said, yeah, when I'm at the hardware store or I'm out, we're looking at plants or whatever for the outside, I'm always looking for stuff that I'm like, oh yeah, I can use that in the fish room to fix this or do that. And it's all hardware related, whether it be plumbing, whether it be electrical, whether it be whatever the case may be.
Every bucket that you will come across in your life
has a new look to it.
Has a new look to it. I mean, there's numerous examples that will come to me after we stop recording that I'll be like, oh, I should have said that. That's been so funny. But
this is when you're now this phase, you are so in
nose deep. Welcome to the club. Congratulations. It's nice to meet you. I'm glad you're here. We're going to be fast friends. You've entered this phase of fish keeping.
Yeah. And this one can last a long time.
Oh.
And a short time at the same time.
When you go to the store and you look at rocks in the store parking lot, you're like, man, that would be a good aquascape. Or at the hotel.
Yeah, when you look at their landscaping
when you
and think,
stay
I can put that in a tank.
At a hotel with a group of aquascapers, plants will be taken. It's fun. And then I think this phase, it will always be there. And I think this next one kind of adds to it. And I think it's when and maybe you don't even get to, this is probably dependent on you. I definitely hit it. It's in today's time, if you want to share your hobby with the world on social media. I think that is a phase that if you're this nose deep in it, you have friends. You probably have at least one friend that does something with tanks on social media or fish with social media, I assume. And it's something you've at least...
Or you watch somebody on social media. Yeah, or you watch.
And it's something that you've at least contemplated. Be like, oh, that would be cool. Or I have a problem. Maybe I could put that out there and get answers. And I needed a break. I think most people do, and I've stopped and started along the years. But I'm at the bottom line, I'm glad I did it. I've learned so much that I never would have been able to learn because I didn't even know I needed how to know it, But it does change your relationship with fish keeping a little bit in certain aspects if you do decide to do it. I don't think it's good or bad. It's just when you come down to do water changes and you're not filming it, it's not ever really hard. It's not really ever time consuming, but by the time you have to set up a camera, set up a mic, make sure your shot's right, and filming fish, they don't always do what you want them to do. And it just makes everything a little longer to do some of the things that it would just be easier to do.
Well, so, in today's world,
you
with
think
all
of it
the
different.
criticism and the different things people put on themselves of, wow, yeah. It's got to look like this or it should look like that. And if it doesn't, then what will somebody say or think or blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm here to tell you, there is no right or wrong when it comes to this.
And there's its own
this hobby.
There's its own phases of social, like sharing things on social media. I don't know everybody that does YouTube, obviously, but I've been around long enough that I know a lot of us, and it seems like we've all kind of you get excited, you share it, everything, you don't really listen to the criticism, you just are excited to share it, and then something changes, and then you start getting pressure, and then you look at your videos in a more critical way. You start looking at the numbers a little bit different. And then when you start putting pressure on yourself, it seems like, I don't know the word that I'm looking for, obviously, but it just changes things a little bit. And then that kind of leads to the burnout and I don't know if I even need to do this.
Well, the dynamic shifts. It becomes from being a hobby, a lifestyle, a culture, whatever you want to call it, to a literal job.
Yeah.
You feel like you're clocking in to do something.
Like, I don't know if I can get this out right, but I was using fish keeping to escape the criticism in the outside world and the pressures. But then my hobby became the source of the outside pressures and criticisms. And it's like, wait a second. I need to like dig down in here to even remember like what the heck I'm doing. Like, is this because I want to, or is it because maybe I am looking for some kind of ego soothing, like pray, like what is going on? So I needed to take a step back and be like, oh yeah, it's just really because I wanted to share the fun stories of fish keeping that I've gone through.
Yeah, not validation.
So there's my phases of fish keeping, and then in the phase of fish keeping, deciding whether you want to share it or not. And then there's phases that you will go through. And I don't know if it would have helped me or not to know, like, you're probably guaranteed to go through a burnout phase if you've been doing this for 8 years off and on through of when I first started doing my videos on YouTube. So I don't know if if I would have listened, be like, oh no, I won't go through that. But chances are you're going to be really excited. There's going to be a shift where you start putting pressure like, oh, maybe I can try to make my videos a little bit more polished and learn how to edit. Or maybe I should upgrade my camera when my cell phone does just fine, honestly. Like, you're going to go through that. Then you're going to be like, beat yourself up. And if you avoid that, power to you. Let me know how you did it. But then it comes for full circle, and then you get excited again, and you're like, oh, I'm cool. You
got to remember that you're doing it for the love of the community and the hobby.
Yeah.
And that brings you right back to that first stage.
Well, hang on before you say that. My last kind of phase is the burnout, because if you do decide to do social media, in the mix of it, you're probably going to do that. And then once you take a step back and whatever you do to make yourself fall in love with the hobby again, it might just be time, or it might be something that you stumble upon. Your circle's going to come full circle again. So something's going to spark your curiosity, and then you're going to you might not be like a beginner again, but something's going to spark your interest that you're going to be a beginner in, and then you're going to get into research. You might not be new at keeping fish, but maybe you're new at keeping shrimp.
Or you're new at keeping that particular fish.
Yeah,
that's what I mean. It's because obviously through the years, I didn't dream that we were going to keep axolotls.
Yeah. Or like you always had the neon gravel like I had for a long time. I just thought I needed, the aquarium colored gravel, like the pinks and stuff. And maybe this time you're going to give it an aquascape. And you want to try a different substrate, and you're looking into substrates. You're not by any means new to fish keeping, but you're new to
a different aspect,
aqua soils or something like that. So I think it does typically come back around if you're truly curious and you want to keep. There's always some people. Like, I don't know if my sister's ever going to get back into it. And my mom, she never was one to keep fish, but now she's enjoying going to the fish. She goes by herself. But my sister, she had some issues. She had some fish that were just difficult to keep. And so when her kiddos get a little bit older and I have her nip me in her ear, she might come around too, but she might need a little bit longer time to find her way back to the hobby. I never got out of the hobby. I always had my fish room. I just took a break from sharing on social media so much. So everybody has a different come around.
It's your own stage of burnout. It could be that you have 6 tanks and you're like, I don't want 6 tanks anymore. I
just want the one. Yeah.
Burnout is independent to each person, just like this hobby is independent of each person. That's why I like it so much, because everything, there's so many different variables in everything, from the fish you keep, the plants, doesn't matter. It could be cichlids with no plants. It could be, just, they're, rhyme and reason can go out the window almost, because there's so many different ways to do everything.
Yeah, and there's so many things that we want to try that we haven't tried yet. We haven't tried the CO2. We've gone full brackish, like high brackish, but we haven't gone full saltwater. So even in the fish keeping hobby, I've been in it for my whole life, but there's so much that I haven't even began to touch on that I'm excited to try to do in the future. So,
and from talking to different people and going places with you and everything, of all the places, and there's certain people, they just niche down. I mean, their thing might be just literally guppies and line breeding out, I mean, particular strains, and they stay hardcore in their lane, and but they know everything about that.
Yeah.
But if you ask them about anything else, they're like, I know about it, but I don't know really. Yeah, it's just over there. It is what it is.
But I thought this was an interesting little subject to talk about. And like I said, I don't know if everybody in the entirety of fish keeping has gone through these phases, but I think the majority of us have definitely shared a good chunk.
Well, and you can pretty much jump from phase 1 of being super excited, not know anything, have a catastrophe, whether it be from your own accord or from wherever you got the fish, whatever. You could jump from that phase straight to burnout because you just feel defeated.
Yeah.
You feel like you've just been kicked right in the keister.
Yeah. And you can go to stage 1 to full basement fish room in a year in no time flat. So each phase is definitely time dependent.
It's personality dependent.
Yeah. But I thought it was an interesting subject. So thank you again for listening. Let me know what your thoughts are. If you're listening on YouTube, definitely leave a comment or a review if you're listening to this as a podcast. But again, I always invite you to go to sciencegalaquatics.com if you want to support the podcast and the show and check out my plushies. I have some really good plushies, and I'm going to release some more before this episode comes out. So make sure you go see what's coming out. But thank you again for listening, and we will see you, or I guess you will hear from us in the next one.
Yes, you'll hear from us in the next episode. Another wonderful dilemma.
But again, thank you for listening, and talk soon. Bye.
Bye.